So we're starting off with just a quick warning for flashing lights for anybody sensitive. Um, and we're back again with Weiss, Shnee. Here we are just at the sketch phase. You know what's interesting is I thought to myself before drawing her, like, why don't we do a simpler pose? Because she was the last character I drew, so I didn't want to, like, complicate it. I just wanted to kind of get this out. But instead, I decided to do the most complicated pose I think I've ever done. So much for keeping it simple. I really like the way the skirt flutters, I like the pose, but it took about 5 to 6 tries to get this pose right, and I suppose in the grand scheme of things that isn't a lot, but it felt like a lot. I was eventually like, you know, do I need to take a couple day break so I can get back into the swing of things and get her pose right. It was really difficult, and not only was her pose difficult, but so was her whole concept. Just designing her character design. I don't know where I'll post those. Maybe I'll post those on Twitter sometime, but there are about 5 to 7 those little doodles that I mentioned in my first video, which you can go check out if you're interested in more Ruby Redesign video content. Before I draw, I do a lot of doodles just to test the color schemes of my outfits and, you know, test the waters of how confident I feel in the look overall. And I had to do, like I said, 5 to 7 doodles for her, maybe even more than that. And it was a lot of mulling it over in my mind. It was a lot of thinking. Ultimately, so huge shout out to Judgmental Critter. I ultimately asked her, I don't know what to do with both Yang, and I don't know what to do with Weiss. Like, I had actually really solid ideas for Blake and Ruby, but when it came to Weiss and Yang, I was just, I drew a blank a little bit. Which is interesting because I just did a video on Yang, designing her 7 times, so you'd think I would have some clarity on how to design her, but, you know, a lot of it is mood and vibe, if you will. I didn't know what direction to take Weiss or Blake. So Judgmental Critter for Weiss, she recommended find, like, in your mind, like, where you want her to be motivation wise. So she has her family. It's like, do you want her to be more aligned with her family, or do you want her to be more distant from her family and maybe represent that in her outfits? That's the long and short of it. And I decided, because personally, I like the direction that Weiss is kind of distancing herself from her family. I don't like her family at all, and I don't think that's a unique opinion by any means. They're all abusive. All of her family abuse her emotionally and even physically in some capacity, except for maybe Whitley. I don't know if he physically hurts her, but he definitely emotionally hurts her, which is still not okay. And it's just really uncomfortable. Like, even Winter, I feel, is somewhat abusive towards her sister. I think she slaps her in, like, volume 3 or 2 or something, and, like, nobody talks about it, and I don't know why. So I don't like her whole family, including Winter. I think they're all abusive, so I like to make her clothing kind of represent, I'm with Ruby, I'm with Team Ruby, and this is my new family. And I like portraying that in her outfits. So yeah, to answer Judgmental Critter's question, there you go. I like to make her align with Ruby more. And especially Ruby, because I feel like Ruby and Weiss are kind of a pair in Team Ruby, and obviously Yang and Blake are a pair in Team Ruby as well. And I think that's kind of always been present. So I like to give her rose imagery, I like to give her Ruby's bright reds, and quite a bit of it. Weiss is actually the reason I started watching the show. It was because I think I saw fan art, and I kept, like, seeing her character design all over the internet multiple times. And I noticed the bright pops of red in her outfit, and that really struck me. It's like, oh my gosh, she still clearly communicates that she's the icy character, even though she has this fiery red outlining her neck, you know. I've just found it really striking. I absolutely adore her Season 1 character design. I think it's stunning. So I watched it. I was a little disappointed in the show that I got, considering her character design. I don't know why, but I saw her trailer and I saw her design, and I thought like the show would be a little more serious. And it did eventually get a little more serious, but not in the way any of us really wanted. But I'll speak for myself. It did get more serious, but kind of in a unique way. So yeah, she's the reason I started watching the show. I asked my brother too, like, what should I put in Weiss? I was really at a loss. And he said, like, you know, rapier artists are associated, I think, with Spanish people and French people. So he said, why don't you just, like, add some French design motifs in there? They're not visible right now, but she will have, like, the military French little squigglies, I don't know what else to call them, on her outfit, and some silver lining. For her design and her color palette, I wanted to keep her out of blues for the most part. I do put a little bit of blue, and you'll see that at the end, but for the most part, I wanted it to just be white and red, with hints of black. So I think with Weiss, I think what people struggle with is that her accents need to be extremely light. You can't have her wearing like a whole black shirt with nothing around it that's white. Like, I think keeping the color palette white with small amounts of accent colors is the way to go. So don't try to make her blacks or reds or anything like too pronounced. And this design in and of itself is honestly teetering the line of that. You'll see there is quite a bit of red in her outfit, and there is also quite a bit of black. So it's almost like I'm lying to you. I did it myself. But she looks best mostly in white. So that's what I would recommend for her character design. For her hair, I just want to do her hair down for a change. I feel like that would really shake up her silhouette. And her hair is down with her iconic right-handed sided ponytail, singular ponytail is still there with a nice little braid around it. And I wanted her hair down. It's kind of symbolic that she's quite literally less uptight. Like her hair's down and it's flowing. She's a little more free, you know? And I feel like that's like really common symbolism hair-wise for female characters, especially that when they exit something not great, their hair tends to get let loose. The only example I can think of is Brave, but that might not be a great example. So let's move on here. I really wanted to put in the time for Martin Astor. As you can see, it took a couple attempts because the first time I drew him a little too flat, and so I had to turn him on an angle. But you know, honestly, it really didn't take that long, and he's so beautiful. I would say I almost like Martin Astor pretty much just as much as I like Crescent Rose. The fact that the hilt and the rapier part is like a revolver, and it contains her dust, which I'm so sad that she doesn't use it more. But that is so, I mean, it's obviously so cool. So yeah, I really, oh my gosh, I love Martin Astor. I think it's a beautiful weapon, and yeah, it would be tough to decide between Crescent Rose and Martin Astor, honestly. I think they're the two strongest weapon designs out of the team, although don't get me wrong, I do appreciate Ember Silica. I'll just be honest, Gamble Shroud is my least favorite weapon design. I even tried to show Gamble Shroud's design to my siblings, because they were like, what is Blake's weapon? Because they don't really understand it, and it's just kind of like, yeah, that's kind of the problem. It's not super easy to understand. It has like 4 different kinds of modes, and maybe even more than that. But, you know, what do you do? I guess it's really hard to come up with these kind of weapon designs. Something I was really excited for this design was her pleated skirt. She straight up looks like a Sailor Scout a little bit with this skirt situation, and I love it. There's this like concept in affluent families of this like tennis outfit with the white skirt and the white top. It's very much like I'm wearing a lot of bright white because I'm wealthy enough to afford clothes that are super clean. And like they play tennis, and that's what inspired it. Maybe later somewhere I'll reference the pin on Pinterest that I saw. There's quite a few of them of just like this white tennis outfit that's all white. And that's kind of what I did with her. It's like, I'm so wealthy. I can wear this beautiful, pristine white while everyone else around me wears their dirty old clothes kind of mentality. That's kind of existed in humanity for a long time. So there's a lot of symbolism with the white tennis skirt, surprisingly, to do with affluence. Yeah, and her shoes were actually kind of ad-lib. So her whole lower half was actually added last. There is a like a little doodle that I did to figure out the colors, but a lot of what actually ended up being her final design was not in the doodle, so I kind of came up with things the day of. Like, the day of, I woke up in the morning and I just had this idea for crisscross tights, and you'll see what I mean later. And I was just like, that's so beautiful. I want to render that as soon as I can. So, and then I was like, well, if she's going to have leggings that stand out, she can't have thigh highs. Yeah, I was originally going to give her thigh highs, and I thought to myself, I always give Weiss thigh highs whenever I redesign her. I don't want to give her more thigh highs. I want to make it unique even in comparison to like when I design her. So I decided to nix the hot thigh highs and give her these cute like little pumps with like frills on top, and I absolutely adore them. Like I said in Ruby's video, I would recommend really thinking about your shoes. They're a lot more important than you might think. So and they perfectly match her like tennis kind of outfit, and I think it's adorable. And there's something about her weapon being somewhat like a tennis. Like, I know it's completely different than a tennis racket, but she's really giving me cheerleader tennis look right now. Yeah, so I'm inking it in. These colors were actually really fun. Her hair kind of made me think of Sailor Pluto, and this like dark magenta also made me think of Sailor Pluto with the green bow. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm really getting Sailor Pluto with this. If you ever want me to release the base colors for like some kind of pop art experiment, let me know, because they're actually pretty fun. And then of course Smart Master is his own layer so that he doesn't overlap with anything. It's very efficient, yeah. I don't know how many other programs can do that, to be honest with you, the whole quick clipping group thing. Yeah, oh, so there were some details that I skipped so that I could get to the coloring as soon as I could. I was so excited to see this one colored. But you know what's fascinating? During the coloring process of this one, I was never sure, like, the whole drawing too. I was just like, do I want to go with this pose? This is a pretty advanced pose even for me. I'm not great at foreshortening, to be honest with you, although I do think it worked out in the end for the foreshortening. I hope you like it. It's not something I typically do because it can make looking at a character's design difficult, like you might not see everything. I think it worked out in this case. Yeah, so here we are with the crisscross. So I did say, like, don't put her in too much black, but I feel like because the crisscross is there, it breaks up the black and is to remind you, like, it carries through the leg. Like, yes, she still is the white character, even though she is wearing a pretty substantial amount of black. Originally, I was going to stray away from her Volume 1 look because that's what I always try to do. I try to shake things up, but I was just like, you know, a white outfit with a teeny bit of black on her torso, I want to bring that back. I like, you know, it's insane how, like, a tiny amount of black on her torso is just a little, but just enough to remind you, like, to give you contrast in the design. So I think that was the issue with my other past looks. I kind of X'd the black in my other looks, and there just wasn't enough contrast. It was just like a sea of white and red. So I think black is actually really important in Weiss. But like I said, palette-wise, like, keep it at a minimum. And if you are going to color the whole legs a whole black like I have here, try to, like the crisscross, do a design so that the white color is still carrying through. So it's not a solid layer, not a solid lump of black. There is something breaking it up, so she's not consumed by this black, and you're like, well, is she the black or the white character or the red character? And I love this kind of thing where there's color on the inside of the look. So when she's standing still, you can't really see the red, but in motion, the red comes alive and it just pops at you. And, you know, that's probably why I picked this pose now that I think about it. You know, I'll say this now before it changes, but I was originally going to give Weiss a scarf that had the Team Ruby colors on it, and I do think it's a little cute, but at the time I was feeling it was a little tacky, so I decided to nix the red, white, black, yellow colors on her, like that little poofy scarf there. I hope you can see it. I hope you notice it. Oh, just doing the eyes. I really like doing skin and eyes. I think most artists do. And I decided the shading for her dress would be a gray instead of the blue, because again, I'm trying to distance her from her family. So her outfit is just white. It's just white, and I think it makes her unique. I feel like, I don't know how this happens, like I don't know why this is, but when I try to make Weiss like a light blue with the pops of red, it just doesn't work, and I don't know why. But giving her the light blue and the red just doesn't seem to work for me, so I like using the gray, and I think it's like really sleek. The idea with her hair though is that Cian is back to give her her highlights, because she is still a Shnee, like genetically, she can't really help the fact that she's still a Shnee, so her hair is just gonna be that kind of like Shnee, white and teal situation going on. There's not really much you can do about that, right? And then the pops are red on the heels. I do think they're super cute. Man, I really do like how the shoes turned out, and I am happy with how I was able to make the shoes still cute and far away. I was really worried. I was like, I do love these shoes, but like if people can't see them, what's the point, you know? But I think in the end, it's like you can still see the shape, and that's really what matters, of course. So I kind of fussed around with the tights a lot. I wasn't sure if I wanted to give them color or not. Ultimately, yes, I decided to give her tights color, and you will see that in the end. But I wasn't sure. I was like, should I do dark blue? Should I do red? And I was like, there's already a lot of red happening on this design. I don't want to push it too far. Oh. And then I started fussing around with the scarf, which is sparkly, by the way, and translucent. And, you know, honestly, the midnight blue color is beautiful. I could equally go with that. Like, if you want me to release a cut where she's wearing the midnight blue leggings and bow there, it is very, like, succinct. So if you want that, I can do that. I really wasn't sure for the longest time, but I guess you'll see in the end product what I choose for the tights. So, yeah. Oh, just a little point here. The tights being crisscross like that is so that she references her ballerina kind of fighting style without literally giving her ballerina shoes. So, yeah, so I decided to do a relatively show accurate Martin Astor Shnee glyph here. And I found it really fascinating. The snowflake edges are more like pine trees to me than snowflakes, but yeah, so I wanted her to be bouncing off of it, of course. That was the meaning of the pose, the reason for the pose. I did not enjoy this process. This was really tedious, and I tried to go through it as quickly as I could. It wasn't turning out as symmetrical as I wanted because there's a lot more points than I thought. It was a lot more complex than I thought. But I think the end result is very convincingly close, and it looks good on the design there. So I am happy with it. When you put in time, things do work out sometimes. So that's nice. Putting the circles around there, yeah. I do love this glyph. I wonder who designed it. I think it might have been Monty, right? But whoever designed it, they did a great job. It is very distinct. I don't think I've ever seen this kind of like pine tree design in any other show. Putting in the writing there. So, yeah, I think we're wrapping up here. So, see you at the end. So this is the final redesign for Weiss. I added the teal at the bottom of the leggings there just for an interesting pop of color. I added a rose crown, well, not really a crown, just a rose pin to reference her new family in Team Ruby. And I gave her a yellow, very pale cream yellow scarf that's transparent and sparkly, just to reference Yang without giving her so much like bold yellow, you know? I don't feel like bold yellow is a great color for Weiss. And her rapier is intentionally facing in such a way that her dust chambers are yellow and red to kind of just like bring the whole look together. So I really hope you enjoyed this Let's Draw. And of course, the obligatory sign off here. Subscribe if you haven't yet, like the video, comment, especially any comments having to do with any future video ideas or any other characters you'd like me to draw. And I'll see you next time for another Ruby design. See you soon.